This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East LA Music Stories, episode 22. My guest is John Valenzuela, excellent guitarist, singer, was in my band Tango when we recorded our A&M album. He also was on my Capitol solo singles, and he has a very interesting story to tell. Welcome, John. How are you?
Hey, good.
So you did not grow up in East LA per se. In fact, when you were a kid, you were in the Crenshaw district. Talk about that and how you wound up at least next to East LA.
Yeah, I was that close to East LA, but not quite there. So I grew up in the Crenshaw district, I guess they call it now, until I was 9. And then my dad got a job in El Cajon, California, outside of San Diego. So we moved down there, and it was just like totally different culture shock, from urban to like semi-rural, and kids all over the place. It was really different. It was cool. I have fond memories of it. The Navy was a big deal down there, and there's a lot of Navy families that lived, in the neighborhood. But there was kids everywhere. I couldn't believe it, because there was some where I lived, but we went down there, and there was just kids on every block. So it was really cool. That was a really fun time. But we only stayed down there about a year because I don't know what happened. Either the job didn't go well, or my mom might have gotten homesick. I don't know. I don't think she liked being that far away from the rest of the family. So we came back, and we made a few moves, and finally ended up in Monterey Park on the house that we stayed in till the end.
Which is right on the border of East LA, the unincorporated area.
Yeah.
But it was like a little bit of a social step up.
Almost the Beverly Hills of East LA.
Well, yeah. It was like way more middle class, a little more.
Yeah.
But right there. You were only blocks away from East LA College.
I knew nobody in East LA. I didn't know anybody. It was like, my center of gravity was Alhambra, Monterey Park. I ended up going to Marquette High School. And so that was my whole, over that way.
Right. So then what got you interested in music and the guitar?
That's a good story. My brother, by the time we got back to, by the time we landed in Monterey Park, I was like 10 and a half. And my brother Leonard, who's 3 years younger than me, wanted to learn guitar. And he bugged my dad for, to learn guitar. So he finally brought a guitar home with an old Stella. Remember those?
Oh, yes. They weren't that good, right?
They weren't that good, but we didn't know the difference. So anyway, we brought the Stella home, and it was just hanging around the house. Probably wasn't tuned or anything, but we'd get it and play, pretend we were playing. And so Leonard was still bugging to take guitar lessons. So my dad looked in the phone book, and Johnny Thompson's name was in there. So he called them, set up a thing, and at the time he was teaching out of his house over on Garfield Avenue. He was still in high school. I think he was about 17. And so I remember clearly on a Saturday, he had this appointment to go over there and take Leonard. And they were getting ready to go, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll go." So I went with him, and met Johnny. And so he said, "Well, this guy Leonard, he's a little young. His fingers are still kind of, they're not quite big enough yet." He said, "But this guy is perfect. He's just the right age."
How old were you?
I was 10 and a half. And so my dad said, "Well, what do you think? You want to take lessons?" I said, "Yeah, okay, why not?" So I started taking lessons, and I took lessons from Johnny for about 3 years, maybe 3.5.
Wow.
And he was a great teacher. Taught me how to read, taught me theory, taught me positions, and just really really good groundwork stuff to know, that I still use to this day. And
So that was Johnny Thompson himself that was teaching.
Yeah, himself, yeah.
Because later when he had the store, he had people teaching.
No, it was just at his house. They had their den set up, and it was kind of a little music studio and almost a little store, because he sold Fender guitars out of there. And my dad bought me my Telecaster not too many months later.
Oh, wow.
The Telecaster, still have it, still play it.
And you played it on our stuff, right?
Yeah, it's on the album, yeah. Most of the stuff I did was on.
So when I first became aware of you was when you were a member of the band Leon and the Leisures,
Yeah.
the band run by our mutual friend to this day, Leon Becken. His brother Danny was the bass player. There was a guitar player. Was his name D or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were, did you start on keyboard or were you playing keyboard and guitar?
No, it was it started out me and Leon and D. It was just the three of us. And like a lot of other bands, it was just
Yeah.
two guitars and a drummer, we didn't even know about a bass player,
Yeah, like us. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. And same thing, surf music and that stuff. And then when this was before the Beatles even. I remember we had gotten together, and I was wondering about that, how I met Leon in the first place, because he went to Brightwood, which was up on the hill, and I went to Inez. So we didn't know each other, but I think it was through Simon Casas.
Mm.
Simon went to Inez, and I think him and Leon knew each other somehow. And
Simon wound up in Mickey and the Invaders.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think that was the connection. It was through Simon. But anyway, we somehow or other we started a band, me, him, and Dee. And once we realized that, hey, we need a bass player, Leon decided, hey, maybe my brother Danny can learn bass. And so his dad bought him a bass and an app, and he learned bass. And that was the band through high school pretty much. But then around 66, I think I was a junior in high school, the Rascals were big, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big stuff back then. And they had the Hammond organ, and it was like, damn, we should. It'd be great to have a keyboard, an organ. And at one point, we even tried to poach Bobby Espinosa from the Mickey and the Invaders.
Really?
Yeah, and it didn't work. Yeah. And so then we came up with a scheme to
scheme.
There was this guy who wanted to get in the band, and he was a little younger than us. And his parents they had money, so we thought, well, maybe if he got in the band, his parents could buy the keyboard, and we'll try to pay it back. That was the plan. We'd pay him back. So it happened. He got in the band. His parents bought the big Farfisa, not the compact, but maybe it was the compact. There was a mini compact and a compact. Well, we got the bigger one. So it was a nice keyboard. So I didn't know how to play keyboard. So I went home, and I remember sitting next. I had the Miracles from the Beginning album. It was like the greatest hits up to about You Really Got a Hold on Me. It's a double album, and I remember sitting there going through every song and learning chord changes and different chords and all that stuff. And that was kind of how I learned. And then it became the keyboard player. And there was two guitars, a keyboard.
So that's when I first saw you, and I'm sure it was at that gig at Atlantic Square. Was it in front of Padrini's? Was Padrini's there already?
That's interesting. I was wondering how you even knew about us, because we weren't part of the East LA thing.
Right. Yeah, we got hired probably through Ernie, who by now was living in Monterey Park, and we got this gig. And Padrini's music started right there on Atlantic Square, right into the border of Monterey.
They were actually in Alhambra first, and then
Alhambra was first. Okay.
Yeah, and then they opened the second store at Atlantic. So I remember playing there a couple times. At Atlantic.
Yeah. So it was a show there, and they set up a big wooden stage in front of Padrini's there, and you guys played, and I saw you, and you were playing the Farfisa. So I had no idea that you played guitar. And then we went on. It was Mark and the Escorts, and that was the first time I was aware of Leon and the Leisures and you. And I got to know Leon much better even back then. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, or if I had met you by then or not. All I know is maybe a year later, when my band evolved into the Men from Sound, we changed our name and a couple of members. We had a gig at the Little Union Hall, and our keyboard player couldn't make it. So I asked Ernie, hey, why don't we see if we can get John, to come and sub with us, from the Leisures. Mm-hmm. So Ernie probably called you and asked you, and you showed up. So you came down, and it was an incredible night, because number one, this was the strongest version of the Men from Sound, like Ernie and I talked about on the last episode. George Ochoa on lead vocal, me on guitar and lead vocal, Ernie on drums and lead vocal, Rick Rosas on bass, and then we had Tony Rodas, who was a great keyboard player, but he couldn't make it, so you came in. So it was a hot band. We were really hot. We had some good vocals and we were tight. And the place was jam-packed. And I remember it really well for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was packed and we were rocking. And I remember the place was hopping and jumping and I was sweating and it felt like the walls were sweating. Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah. Wasn't it around Christmas time too?
Probably, yeah. And the other thing I remember is for the first time in my life, I had my hair styled. It was kind of back, and I think they even had a little bit of hairspray on it. By the end of the night, it was like, because of all the sweat,
wasn't the last time.
Yeah. But I just remember it was one of the hottest gigs we ever did in East LA, just because it was so packed. The place was so rocking and jumping that literally it was like the Beatles at the Cavern in terms of the walls were sweating, Yeah. So we did that gig, and we had 2 gigs that night.
Yeah, we did.
Went over to Van Nuys, right?
Yeah. You know what I remember about that gig too? You guys had these green corduroy coats, I think, jackets. Do you remember that?
Kind of brownish, but yeah.
Brownish, yeah, maybe it was brown. Anyway, so obviously I didn't have the same stuff, but I did have this big jacket. It was almost the same brown stripe thing, corduroy, but it was like a jacket for the snow. Probably my mom probably bought it at Penny's or Sears or someplace. So I ended up wearing that thing. It just felt totally out of place. Because I had these cool, nice cut jackets, and I had like a snow jacket on. But yeah.
And do you remember the Van Nuys gig at all?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Was it Van Nuys first, and then the other one?
No, I think Van Nuys was afterwards.
I thought it was cool though, like 2 gigs in one day.
Yeah, it was cool. That once in a while that happened to us.
And there were big gigs. There was a lot of people in both of them.
Yeah, they were both packed. Yeah. So that was the first time you played with us. So the thing that amazes me is that so I knew you as a keyboard player. I didn't even know, even after that you played guitar.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was so shocked later when I saw you playing guitar. But I am jumping ahead of myself here. We need to talk about something else that went on. You and Leon and the Leisures wound up becoming this band called the Cassinos with 2 S's.
Right.
And there was a manager named Ellis Gold, who I met at the time too. His company was called Ego Productions, Ellis Gold Organization or something.
Yeah.
And he had worked with the Blendells when they broke up. Rudy Valona and Tommy Esparza, the lead guitar player and rhythm guitar player, started their own band called the Vaqueros. And they were being managed by Ellis Gold at that time. This was after the Blendells had their big hit with La 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 La, and they made their couple of singles and all that. Mm-hmm. And they were on 9th Street West. They started to get somewhere, the Vaqueros. Mm-hmm. And somehow you guys got hired to make a record with some tracks that they had done. Maybe they broke up at that point, but what do you know about
that? They broke it up, yeah. I think maybe Rudy got drafted, or I think he got drafted, and that kind of fell apart. And so they had these 2 tracks that there were music, but there was no vocals on them, and so somehow he worked out something where we did the vocal part. And one of them was Leader of the Band that Leon sang on. And it's on one of the East Side Review compilations, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other side was a song called Cabazon that I sang. And
And that songwriter?
The songwriter was some lady named Winifred Ball. I think it was Winifred Ball. And I think the story was there was a little casino in Cabazon back then. It's nothing like it is now. It's just a little casino. I remember seeing it, going out that way. And I think she owned it, and so she wrote the song about Cabazon to, kind of promote Cabazon.
And that's why they came up with the name Cassinos for your band.
Oh, you know what? I bet that is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. So so that's.
Well, here it is. So, in the year 2000, Dionysus Records released an album called East Side Sound Volume 2.
Uh-huh.
featuring Mark and the Escorts. Right there.
Yeah.
And that's our picture, when we were about 14, 15 years old. And they have our song. All four of the recordings we did on GMP Crescendos are on here. Get Your Baby, Tough Stuff, Dance With Me, and Silly Putty. And anyway, your record wound up on here. The Cassinos, leader of the band. And it was funny because Lee Joseph, who owned the company, Dionysus, called me up and he said, "Who are these guys at Casinos? I heard the record and it sounded East LA somehow. And there was some clue on there. Maybe somebody said something, but it reeked of East LA to him. It reeked of East LA. and, and he said, "Well, who are these guys?" And I said, "I happen to know who they are." And I told him, and I got in touch with Leon. He gave me the photograph. I sent it to them so you can put your photograph on the liner notes of the CD. I'm not sure if it's on the album. But yeah, so there's a picture of you guys with Paisley shirts on or something.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember when that compilation came out and that we were going to be on it, or I saw it when it came out, and I saw the song "Leader of the Band," and I could not remember anything about the song. I couldn't remember anything about it, how it went, and it was bugging me. I couldn't remember anything. So when I finally played it, I said, "Oh yeah, now I remember." Leader of the band, and probably because it wasn't really something we did. We just did the vocal on it. So,
yeah,
wasn't
a strong memory.
Yeah, but yeah. However, I do remember Cabazon, maybe because I sang on that one.
Right. So what about the appearance of Don Podler, the little agent?
Yeah. So after high school, I had a friend named Ron Schaefer that went to Marquette also, and he was in kind of I don't know if we were rivals, but in the Outsiders at Marquette, and at the time there's the other Outsiders came out with "Time Won't Let Me."
Mm-hmm.
So somehow they got connected to Don Podler, who booked a lot of fraternities and this and that, and he started sending them out as the "Time Won't Let Me" Outsiders. So anyway, he was sending them out all over the place to be the Outsiders. So after high school, by 1969, Ron was doing he was still doing stuff with Don Podler. The Outsiders had broken up, but he was doing fraternity stuff with Don Podler. And he called me one time and said, "Hey, I got these gigs. You want to do them?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So me, him, and another guy, a drummer, were doing these fraternities and this and that. So one day we had a gig at UCLA at a fraternity. It was in the daytime, I remember, maybe late afternoon. And Ron called me and said, "Hey, the drummer can't make it." He said, "I can't get hold of him. I don't know, he can't make it. He's not going to be there. What are we going to do?" So I thought, well, I don't know. And then I thought, well, I remember this guy Ernie lives right up the street, and maybe he might be able to do it. So because the only way I knew Ernie was I don't remember him from the fraternity thing, but when we were Leanna and the Leisures, we played at this church fiesta down the street from his house. The church is right there in the corner.
Yeah.
And we were playing at the fiesta one year, and I'm guessing maybe 65. And I remember him and his sister walking down the hill and coming over, and he introduced himself to us. "Hey, my name's Ernie. I play in a band." And this was probably even before the Padrini thing, because pretty sure I was playing guitar. So he introduced himself to me back then, and I'd kind of forgotten about him. Then I thought, "Oh, wait a minute, this guy Ernie lives up the street. I gotta ask him." So he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." So we did the gig, and we just clicked right away. The first two songs was like, "Hey, this is cool." And from that point on, Ernie was the drummer with me and Ron.
And you said he came down the street with his sister, who your wife.
My wife, yeah, years later, yeah. I had no idea.
To this day.
Yeah, that's right.
So then you guys started playing with Ernie, and you started doing some Imposter gigs, right?
Oh yeah, we did a lot of Imposter gigs. That was his specialty, sending out imposters.
What other groups did you go out as? A Steam?
We're at Steam, Nana, Hey Hey, Goodbye. The Electric Indian, that was one of them. The Casinos, who had a hit, Then You Could Tell Me Goodbye.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we were called the Cassinos for a while. So hey, you guys could be the Cassinos also. So yeah, we did a lot of that stuff. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of, he's sending out a lot of the other people doing Imposter gigs.
Like Ernie and I discussed, we did them too. I'm sure I did one as Steam, and I think the Outsiders and the Electric Indian. The Electric Indian gig is the one where we wound up opening for Rick Nelson, which was very embarrassing, but because we weren't all that prepared. Yeah. But yeah, that's what Don did, and ironically, Don's brother was the famous Richard Podler, who produced Steppenwolf and Three Dog Night.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to do with Don Podler, but the worst Imposter gig I ever did was, I don't think he sent us out there, but it was in Yuma, Arizona in the summertime. And we got this gig, and it was me, Ernie, and this guy, Steve Stewart. Drove all the way out to Yuma, Arizona. We were supposed to be the Lemon Pipers, Green Tambourine. And go all the way out there. It was this big concert hut, like a military thing. And packed people. We were supposed to be the Lemon Pipers that didn't know the song at all. We didn't even attempt to play. We just played what we knew. And got out of.
Did you get in trouble over that, or nobody?
No, we got paid. That's all I know.
Hey, that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, it was a long drive,
especially then. Well, speaking of that, when you were still with Leon, you guys did a tour around several states, and you guys were only what, 18 years old?
18, yeah, we're 18.
Where did you go?
We got fake IDs because we were playing in bars basically, and we were 18. And one guy was 21. This guy, Danny Garcia, was 21.
Keyboard player.
Keyboard player, yeah.
It's funny.
And this guy, Chuck Cabot, I remember he was the agent that got us these gigs. Somehow we got connected to this guy, Chuck Cabot. And he sent us to Sioux City for 2 weeks, Iowa, this club. Then we went to Des Moines for a week. Then we went to Dallas, Texas for a week at this club. And then the hard part was for 3 weeks, we did these one-nighters at military bases all over the Midwest. Went as far east as Illinois. And,
wow.
In a van, all was crammed in a van. And yeah.
Good experience, huh? Good life experience. And music.
Yeah, so that was definitely experience at 18. Especially on military bases. That was different.
I remember we played military base. We played Point Magoo and Point Hueneme. Yeah, and that was a real depressing gig. I think we were already Tango too. I think. I'm not sure if we were the Mudd Brothers or Tango, but just remember we were all depressed backstage because they were all guys, no girls, and they were military people, and they, most of them. Hear this long-haired Chicano group, military base, and we survived it. But I think we had to do a lot of country music, as I recall.
We did, yeah. We did the country stuff we knew. So,
you have to do what you have to do musically to survive. I've done that many times in many kind of situations. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta hold your nose and do it.
That's right. So how did Richard come into the scene? We started playing with Ernie and Richard.
So we're doing these fraternity gigs and that kind of stuff for Don Podler, and then Ron Schaefer got drafted, and he was a Dutch Indonesian, so he had Dutch citizenship, I believe. So he decided, well, I'm gonna go back to Holland and not go in the army. Don't blame him. So at that point, Richard was available, so he stepped in, and it was me, him, and Ernie, and we all just clicked. They had been playing together so long, and it was just easy.
And of course, we're talking about Richard Rosas, who later became known as Rick Rosas when he played with Neil Young and Joe Walsh for many years. So now you three were together, and that's when I saw you, and that's when I was stunned because, as I said, I didn't know you played guitar. So I remember showing up to see you guys at a fraternity party. It was either UCLA or I think it was UCLA, but it was outdoors. Could have been the SC.
I think it was actually, I remember it was outdoors in the day, and I think you were
Yeah,
sitting on the porch, and
yeah,
we were playing on the lawn or something.
yeah. And I was absolutely blown away because, like I said, I didn't know you played guitar, and you were incredible. I mean, you were not only were you a great guitar player, but it appealed to me the way you played, the bluesy way you played, the funky way you played, and the way you sang. You know, it was like a package, and it was like, so what the hell? I had no idea, you know, because I just knew you standing there playing a keyboard and not even singing. So I was absolutely gobsmacked, as they say in England. And
That's
so,
I remember that. I remember that kick, and I remember you coming, and I really didn't know you at the time. Just from that, when I subbed that week, and I remember you sitting there, and I didn't know how good you were, and if I had known, I'd have been really freaked out. But I didn't know, so I was just, I was just doing my thing. Luckily, because
yeah,
otherwise I'd have been all intimidated.
yeah. Well, man, it just sure worked out for us because we wound up doing a 4-piece, doing gigs also, just regular gigs. But I'm thinking that didn't happen till after we started recording together. Is that true? I think that we started playing as the Mudd Brothers after we started recording.
It was pretty close to the same time, probably.
Yeah, it's hard to know, things blur together. But so the next part of the story is, well, then you had a short time where you guys played with Steve Stewart and you played with Steve Verdugo, and you had these other groups, Gold Seal and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, right.
And
yeah, we had Steve, the Steves,
the Steves,
one at a time. Yeah.
yes. And so anyway, so what happened is I had broken up with Ernie and Richard after the Tommy Coe album in 1970 because we kind of hit a dead end when we couldn't get a record deal. So we split. It was during that time that they started playing with you and they started playing with the Steves. And I got this opportunity through Art Brambilla to record. He had convinced Capitol Records that there's a lot of talent in East LA. They gave him studio time at independent studios in Studio City. And I had an opportunity to go in and record 2 songs. So I needed a backup band. So I went to see you guys, and I don't think I even went to see you because I thought you might be a backup band. I just maybe went to see you guys. And you were playing at a place called The Clinic. Was that in Pasadena?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was a beer bar?
Yeah. Total serious beer bar. Yeah.
Serious beer bar. And but anyway, I went, and once again, I was blown away. Because, from the time that Ernie and I and Richard had broken up, maybe about a year and a half had passed. And when I went to see you guys, they were playing better than ever. They had you, and Steve Verdugo was very talented, singer, keyboard player. And you guys were tight, and you guys were rocking, and I was blown away. So I asked you guys if you would come and, back me on the session. And so that was how I got back together with Ernie and Richard and started playing with you. It was a blessing.
That's how Steve ended up on Rock and Roll Queen, I guess. Huh?
Yes. So the first session we went to at Independent Studios was to record 2 of my songs, Rock and Roll Queen, which is a real 50s style rocker. And the flip side was Lonely, a Neil Youngish kind of acoustic kind of song, slower tempo. And so I invited the whole band. So as it turned out, on Rock and Roll Queen, Steve Verdugo played Wurlitzer electric piano. And we did some rehearsals first, of course. And boy, he played great on it. And you were playing slide guitar. We went in there and killed it, man. We did it all live. It's like back in the days when, man, they just went and played. Right. We did the basic track live. I was playing acoustic guitar on the basic. And then I did the vocal, Ernie did a harmony, and it went down pretty fast. And then on the B-side, it wasn't a B-side yet. The other song on Lonely, I brought in Anthony Beret, the leader of the Emeralds, a very popular band in East LA, good friend of mine. And he was great with Hammond organ. So he played Hammond organ on the other side, Lonely, and Steve didn't play on that one. So we had different keyboard players on each song, and that song went beautifully. And you did a beautiful lead guitar part on that. And Anthony had these beautiful sounds. It was just magic right away. What are your memories of that session?
I remember I made a mistake
What song?
at the end of the solo on Lonely.
Oh, that's right. You ended it like a couple of seconds too soon, but you saved it.
I mean, it worked, but if you didn't know it, you wouldn't know it.
No, but what you did, thinking on the spot, you thought it was over, boom, and there was another couple of beats, so you went bling, and you hit the
I
chimes.
did a little harmonic thing.
You hit the chimes right on the right place, so it sounded planned. So that was pretty clever. But the solo itself was so tasty, And one thing I remember, the engineer on that one was a guy named Howard Gale, and he was a great engineer, and he did a great job. All I remember is when I heard the rough mix, there was a lot of reverb on your guitar, and it was so dreamy, and the whole track was just the vibe with the organ and perfect, the acoustic guitar. But when the final mix came, they didn't use as much reverb, so I thought it lost, and it had nothing to do with your performance. I wish it had that more reverb that it had on the rough mix, but it's still you just great solo. What about Rock and Roll Queen? You have any memories of that with the slide?
No, just it was just kind of basic slide stuff. I hear it now and it's like, well, I could do it better now. But for the time, it was good. I didn't hear any sour notes because if you're playing slide, it's easy. If you're not right on it, it can be sour sounding. And I didn't hear any sour notes.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so what happened? Art had brought in 5 or 6 bands to record 2 songs, and Capitol Records had the first right of refusal. So they selected our stuff. And it came out as a single on Capitol Records with Rock and Roll Queen as the A side, Lonely as the B side, and I was a solo artist, and that came out, and it did okay. I mean, it got a little noise. It got a good review in Cashbox magazine. It said "Sunny approach to a blues rocker." Oh man, we're in. But I don't think Capitol followed up with a lot of promotion on it. But anyway, in any case, we were invited back to do another single, and that one was "I'm Brown," and the B side was "Living Off the Land," which was kind of a Creedence style rocker. And once again, Anthony came and played organ on those 2 beautifully. But the difference was on the second session, we had a new engineer, B.B. Cunningham, who we love. So tell me about what you remember about B.B.
B.B. was too cool, man. He was just, he's from Memphis, and he's probably knew all the guys, Steve Cropper. He's the same age as all those guys. Oh, yeah. I'm sure they probably all know each other. Oh, yeah. Right? And he was just too cool, just laid back, and he just made it really easy. And he was like one of us.
Yeah. That Southern drawl, talked really slow, wore a hat, had the beard. He was just really cool. And we didn't even know. I didn't know till later that he had a hit record himself in the group Los Hombres, and he wrote the song. It was called "Let It All Hang Out." Let it all hang out. It was a big hit, and he wrote it and he recorded it. And I think his brother was in the group that recorded The Letter. What was the name of that group?
Box Tops. Yeah.
Box Tops. Yeah, his brother was in the Box Tops. Yeah. And so and I didn't find out till like a few months ago online. I heard an interview that he had done that he had done his whole career in Memphis, like you said, on the whole scene, and he moved to L.A. Right then, 1972 is when it was, and he got a job at Independent Studios, and he did our whole album. I mean, he did all the ones we did at Independent. We wound up doing 8 songs there. He engineered all of them. He was perfect for us in every way. And I heard that after about a year and a half, he went back to Memphis. So it was just like we were so lucky that magically he came to work and work at that studio just in time for us. It couldn't have been more perfect. And
no, he was great. The one thing I remember about him, he ate sugar cubes all day long.
Oh, really?
The kind by the coffee,
You'd think he'd be more hyper with all that sugar, but he still was laid back.
Yeah, just popping sugar cubes all day long. Damn.
Wow. And tragically, I must say this, I didn't mention it on the Ernie interview, is that later he wound up being the bass player for Jerry Lee Lewis for many years on the road. And Rick Rosas, our bass player, wound up getting a gig to back up Jerry Lee on a TV show. This was probably in the early 2000s. It was called Last Man Standing,
Yeah.
where he got to back up Jerry Lee, and all kinds of stars came on, like John Fogerty and Solomon Burke, and all these people they got to back up on this show. It was a tribute to Jerry Lee Lewis. Anyway, so when Richard went to Memphis, I guess, to film this, he ran into BB. So it was the first time that, we got reconnected to BB. I wound up talking to him on the phone due to that connection. And BB said, "Hey, man, I'm still a fan of your music, man. I still love that. I still play it in my car." And he said he still digs that stuff that we did. And his particular favorites were Wild Night at the Old Rest Home and I'm a Human. So that was really cool to reconnect with him. But tragically, God, it must have maybe about 10 years ago. He was working as a security guard in a housing project in Memphis, and there was a robbery taking place. He went to investigate, and the guy shot him and killed him. I mean, worst thing ever for anybody to have that happen to, but such a beautiful guy, such a mellow, beautiful, talented, sweet guy, it was a very tragic ending for him.
Yeah.
But he was a great guy, and we love him.
Yeah, it was great. I think some of that Memphis voodoo rubbed off on us when he was around.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so after the second single came out, and I was really proud of that. The problem was I'm Brown, because it was 4 minutes and 45 seconds long, which is way too long for a single, especially back then. A single should be like 2 minutes and 30 to maybe 3 minutes max. This was 4:45. So, I was thinking, well, they played like a Rolling Stone and Hey Jude. Yeah, but that was Bob Dylan and the Beatles, So I think Capitol did try to, they did cut it up. They chopped solos and they tried to make it shorter, but it kind of ruined it as a promotional copy. But all I can say about I'm Brown is that to me, it's the best song and best record I ever made that I was involved in, and I may have written more sophisticated songs or whatever, but the fact that song is about Chicano pride, but at the same time it's saying, don't you know I'm brown, can't you see my face, but I'm first a member of the human race. That message is very powerful. So the message, the way we played, everybody kicked ass on it. I mean, it's just an unbelievable record, and it just had a magic, and as I've said before, it jumped on tape. I seem to remember it. We did it like in one take. My piano part was one take. Our double lead guitar part that we overdubbed was one take. What do you remember about that?
About the overdubbing, or
well, let's say the double guitar thing we did.
Yeah, that was we did it through the board, didn't we?
I don't remember that. Could be. Didn't sound like that, but maybe we did.
No, it didn't. Maybe we didn't, but it seems to me we went direct. But I don't know. We just played, and
it was unplanned, right? I mean,
planned, yeah.
I mean, did we plan that I'd play? I think we might have planned. I'll play a few bars first, then you, then me, then you, then both.
But we didn't plan what we were going to play. It was just,
no, and man, it was just perfect the way it fit together. I'd put that up against Still As in Young and Almost Cut My Hair, or any of those double guitar things. It's really amazing. And I was on my Les Paul Custom. You were on your SG?
I think I was playing the Les Paul Special, yeah.
Oh, okay.
On that. I played the Telecaster on the basic track.
Okay. And the one thing that I remember was that when it was getting toward the end, my B string went flat.
Wow.
And for a second there, I almost said, let's do it again. But I thought, no, this is too good. I can't do that. So I literally had to, when I was going da 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 da, I had to like pull the string up into it. So I'm doing the lick while I'm pulling it up as it's going out, and saved it.
Yeah.
And, I don't think we couldn't have done it better if we tried again.
I never noticed that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can hear it if you really listen. You might be able to hear it. And then you're getting back to your rhythm guitar. My God, on the telly. That whole thing you did, that da da ba da ba da 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 da, and all those licks you put in there were just perfect. I think you told me that you got that lick from somewhere, or it
Yeah,
was
the
inspired
Speed Press. Yeah,
from what?
Illinois Speed Press. They had a song. I don't even know the name, but it was like C to F, C to F, and they did this little lick in there, and so we went A minor to D, A minor D. So that might work, So I had to change it because it was a minor chord, but it worked.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
And with signature lick in there.
Yeah, it's a nice signature lick. And then your solo in the middle is incredible. Holy crap. I had my piano solo, kind of a Ramsey Lewis kind of solo. And then you had a solo section. And there's a couple of nasty notes you threw in there. Down, 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 down.
Yeah,
Nasty, but man.
that's funny because I've tried to relearn that, and I don't know how I did it. But,
It just happened on the fly at the moment.
yeah, totally on the fly. But there's one part in there where I did the smear that I don't know what I did. I suppose if I sat down long enough, I could figure it out. But
That's amazing. That's what I'm saying. It was kind of magical, that whole session.
yeah,
When Ernie played his ass off Richard, I mean,
yeah, no, yeah.
that's why it's my favorite record I've been involved with, for all those reasons.
Yeah.
This would be a good time to talk about the Echo Park House, because well, before we get to that, you and Richard and Ernie had moved to Laurel Canyon at one point.
Yeah, we rented a house in Laurel Canyon, probably 1971, and it's kind of funny because it was off of Laurel Canyon, maybe a quarter mile, and we rented it for maybe $300 a month. I don't know, but I didn't live there. Richard lived there full time, but me and Ernie kind of went there on the weekends, and we didn't stay there all the time. At least I didn't. And I'm pretty sure Ernie didn't either because we were going to school maybe, and I don't know. But yeah, we were there for probably a year, good year there.
Was that Richard's idea? I would think it might have been.
I think probably was, yeah.
And and it was a brilliant idea because, right, location, location, location. If you want to get into rock and roll, Laurel Canyon was a place at that time where everybody was. But then you guys wound up moving to Echo Park, and there you did live together, right?
Yeah, we lived there for at least a year together.
Talk about that incredible house and
It was on the side of the hill over the 5 freeway, right on the edge of Elysian Park, and so there wasn't much around. She had to walk down like, I don't know, 100 steps to get to probably wasn't 100 steps, but it was quite a few. It was at least 50. And but there's nobody around, and it was like a 3-level place. There was a basement where the owner lived, and then we lived in the middle. And then on the top floor was Olivia Sanchez, an artist that's still around, and John Berger, who partnered, who became kind of our roadie. So it was a great place, and we could play anytime we wanted and as loud as we wanted. And yeah.
And that's where we were rehearsing for these recordings.
Yeah, right.
And Ernie told me in the last interview that he and Richard would do like bass and drum rehearsals because they might get their parts so tight.
Yeah, they'd be in the room doing that for several hours sometimes.
Would you join in sometimes, or?
I don't think so. I don't think I was invited. I don't know.
It was a rhythm section thing.
Yeah, the rhythm section thing.
Yeah. But then I'd come over and all 4 of us would rehearse.
Yeah,
that's when you really got into
it. That was great because we got to develop it. It wasn't like we just went in the studio and learned them, or we had a chance to develop them and come up with some stuff.
Some nice signature licks, and we went in tight every time. So the next songs we recorded, well, after our first 2 singles, they gave us permission to record an album. Let's go in and cut another 6 songs or so. So I would bring in 2 songs at a time. Each session was a different genre. So the next session was I'm a Human and Out in the Cold. And both those songs were very acoustic oriented, nice mellow ambiance. And another kind of an amazing lucky thing happened is there happened to be a Mellotron there at the studio. There were never Mellotrons around. Nobody had a Mellotron. The Beatles had one on Strawberry Fields and stuff, but I'd never seen one. I wouldn't have known where to get one, but there happened to be one
They're
there.
probably still kind of rare, huh?
Yeah, they still are rare. And it happened to be there. I think somebody had left it from a previous session or something. So we used it. And I played it on both songs. On I'm a Human, I used the flute sound. And it sounded very much like the Strawberry Fields sound.
Right.
Which added a whole dreamy quality to the song. And the other song, I used the string sound. And if you played low, it sounded like a cello. If you played up here, it sounded like violin. So, I played the string part. And then when the bridge came, I used the cello. So it went out on the road. And then it just went back into the string without a break, up to the string section for the last verse. But those were two really cool songs. And thing I remember about I'm a Human was I think you played your Telecaster on the basic track, and I played my acoustic. And the solo section on that is very strange because there's a solo, but there's not one obvious instrument. Yeah. It's like, I think it started out, let's say, with you soloing, and then I wound up soloing on the acoustic for a while, and then suddenly the mellotron, took over. So it's like without a plan.
In and out, right?
Yeah, without a plan, it just stuff was happening throughout, but there was no one instrument take your solo, but it filled in that spot in a really cool way. And both those songs came out really nice.
Yeah, we didn't plan that either, right?
No, it wasn't planned at all. And Out in the Cold had 3-part harmony, and you must have sang, I think you sang the low part, or you sang one of the parts. Yeah. Then the next time we came in, we did Nobody's Satisfied and Hang On.
Yeah.
And those are more R&B-ish, different kind of thing. And we brought in the Elijah horn section. So that we had horns on both those songs, and they came in and played great. And then on Nobody's Satisfied, I invited Steve Salas of Tierra, who was recording at the time in the same studio with Tierra when they just started out. And he sang with me and Ernie on Nobody's Satisfied. Nobody's satisfied. And those came out great. And I really regret that neither of those songs were on the album.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones. Nobody's Satisfied. That song just moves.
Yeah. And you did some killer guitar parts on that as well. And I was playing the Wurlitzer electric piano on both songs.
That's right.
Yeah. So those are very special, but never released. But hopefully soon they will be. Because I'm thinking about doing a compilation very soon. And then the last two we did were country songs. It was Don't Rain on My Parade and Wild Night at the Old Rest Home. And I asked Art if he can get us Sneaky Pete Kleino to play steel guitar on him. And Sneaky Pete is a legendary player who was in the Flying Burrito Brothers. He played on John Lennon's sessions. He was an in-demand player. Great. And Art got him, and he showed up and did his overdubs on both songs. Beautiful. And both solos are incredible.
Great tone, great licks.
Yeah. And
remember he came in and I think it was on Wild Night. He was going through the board, right? He was sitting in
the control room, and I was with him.
And I remember I was sitting outside the control room listening, and he said, "Hey, turn that guitar down. It's getting in my way."
And that was your guitar?
What about mine? Oh man, I must suck. I must have sucked what I'm doing. But when the total mix came in, everything just,
Yes, it sounded like it was planned because he'd do a lick and then you do a lick, and it was like incredible. Yeah. So I just think he didn't want anything to distract him.
Yeah.
But it worked. It wound up.
That's not the way I heard it like that.
Of course, at that moment, it was really scary.
It worked perfectly.
Yeah, no, it worked great.
I love the way everything weaves together all through that song. Three guitars. Yeah.
So that was our 10 songs. That was supposed to be the album, but then Art and I had a little business disagreement, and so things started going south in various areas, which we don't need to go into, but we wound up moving on at that point, and we went to record an additional song at the Capitol Tower.
Right.
And we did my country song called Brown Hair Growing. And it was kind of exciting to go record in the Capitol Tower Studio A, you know, where Sinatra had recorded and everybody. And I remember we had a little problem with the engineer because he didn't know how to mic Ernie's drums properly. And do you remember anything about the engineer?
Not that much, but I do remember the drum thing was being,
Yeah.
there was an issue there.
Yeah. Now, on Brown Hair Growing, you came up with an incredible signature lick that down, 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 down. You know, you were like a master of signature licks, and that was a beautiful one. And then you did that really fast run in that song.
Right. Yeah.
Can you still know that run, or you'd have to relearn it?
Happen to have a guitar right here. I don't know if I can do that fast, but if I was learned, that one.
Yeah, that one.
No, I was thinking of the first line was it seems like everybody wants something to believe in.
It was like a reverse scale.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
That was a nice lick. Yeah,
that's I got some good hooks in that song.
yeah, and that was very influenced by Poco. You know, I really loved Poco at that time, and it's a very Poco-esque song. And I played my 12-string Rickenbacker on that on rhythm, so it had a birdsy Poco thing to it.
I like them all, but I like that. I've always liked that one.
Brown Hair Growing.
Yeah. It's a good song. It's good.
Thanks. So at that point, my lawyer hooked us up with A&M Records, and we moved over there. And I was supposed to be a solo artist, but somewhere along the line, somebody at the company thought it'd be better if we were a group concept, and we became a group, and that changed that. But it still was the same situation in terms of they were all my songs, and I was singing all the lead vocals, but it was now it was a group concept. And I explained it on the last show about just how they wanted us to have a name that sounded Latino, because we were Latinos, even though the songs were rock and country rock. And I came up with Tango as a compromise because of the film Last Tango in Paris was real popular, and I thought Tango is Latin. But I wound up being a mistake because everybody thought this was a tango album of tango music, because on the cover it just said Tango. Here it is. Now, if you saw this in a record bin, how would you know it's a rock group?
Right.
It's a tango album. So that was a huge, huge mistake that really hurt us. The back cover, we got some nice photos. There's Ernie in front of his house. He was living in Santa Monica at the time, Ernie Hernandez. And there I am on the roof of an apartment where I was living in Echo Park. And there you are. Your place in Highland Park?
Yeah, Highland Park. Yeah.
And then and here's Richard. And that was at the place of the Echo Park House on the side of the hill.
Right.
Yeah. So the back was cool, but you know, not everybody would turn the album over when they saw this.
Yeah.
But
well, that reminds me. When did we record Alessandro? And
okay, so that's next. So then my lawyer hooked me up with Joe Wissert, producer. And Joe Wissert had produced Happy Together by the Turtles, If You Could Read My Mind by Gordon Lightfoot, the first couple of Earth, Wind, and Fire albums. He eventually did Silk Degrees, Oz Gags. What a resume. He started out with Cameo Parkway in Philadelphia during the Chubby Checker, Bobby Rydell period. But anyway, and a really nice guy, very mellow. We like that, you know, those kind of people that are laid back and easy to be around. And so he wound up taking us to Clover Studios, which was right next door to Gold Star on Santa Monica Boulevard. And it happened to be the same studio Richard and Ernie and I had recorded with Tommy Coe in '69 for 6 months. It was called Mark Studio back then.
Uh-huh.
but these other people bought it, refurbished it, and it became a really in-demand hip
That
studio
was a big time studio back at the
called,
time.
called Clover. So we had a great studio. We had a great producer, and he brought in an engineer named Robert Apere, Apere, who had just done a James Taylor album, and I think he'd worked with Elton John. He was like a really hot engineer, but I don't think we were too happy with him because he was not like Tommy Coe or B.B. Cunningham. He was not laid back, and he just did things without asking anybody else. He was making decisions.
Right.
And it's really, it should be the engineer, the producer should have a say, and the songwriter and the artist should have a say. But he just did certain things. He got great sound. There's no doubt. He got incredible sounds. But like he put delay on things in a couple of cases that I think that really messed things up.
Right.
And I think the atmosphere made Ernie a little uptight. He said that he wasn't always at his best, although he played great on all 4 songs we did there. But he felt he rushed a couple of them at the end. But we recorded Walk On Down, He's an Artist, Alessandro, and Greenback Blues. And on Greenback Blues, I asked Joe Wissard if he could get us John Hartford on banjo, who wrote Gentle on My Mind. It's just knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. Big Glenn Campbell hit. He wrote that. He was also the banjo player in Glenn Campbell's television show. And he's just a legendary folk artist. And he came in. Were you there the day he came in?
No, I wasn't. I understand.
Okay. Well, he came in and he played fiddle and 2 banjos. What he called a low banjo and a regular banjo. So he played the banjo through Greenback Blues. Then he played the other banjo, and then he overdubbed a fiddle. And he was incredible and very mellow, nice guy. So that was thrilling to have him, an honor, and he was great. Now, here's my regrets on Greenback Blues. I was into my Dylan phase at that point, and you know how Dylan is famous for doing things in one take and just doing them all live. And I just said, let's just do this live. I'm going to sing it at the same time, play it. And I was playing my Martin acoustic. And I remember they had me in another room. They had me in a hallway with the doors closed, so I don't think I could even see you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But we played it great. But I wish I had done the vocal over again, because I'm happy with like the first 2 verses, but the last verse I started to ad lib, and the ad libbing was good, but I felt like I was a little sharp. And when I hear it to this day, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do that again. And I had that Dylan mentality. Oh, so what? And we did it live, and that's the way it worked out, So that bothers me. The other thing was you did an incredible solo. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I love that solo. It's so funky and countryish in a way, but bluesy at the same time. And Robert Apere put this delay on it.
Yeah.
And to me, it didn't ruin it, but it affected it, because by giving it that delay, it made it sound like the lead was a little behind the time. You know what I mean? If he had put no delay, it would have been right on there. But it sounded a little, it was delayed. Yeah. And I wish, that he wouldn't have done that. And did you notice that, or did it bother you?
Yeah. It's still, I'm kind of used to it now, but yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah. He did the same thing to me on He's an Artist. I was playing Wurlitzer piano. We did it live, the basic track. And he put delay on the piano, which was really bad, because if you're doing a Jerry Lee Lewis, and there's a delay on it, it washes it out. It takes that staccato out of it, So that affected me too. But that's a hell of a tight track, man. That track, and it has all those pushes, and we're so tight right now. It's pretty amazing. Do you have any particular memories on any of those 4 songs? You played a slide guitar on Walk On Down.
Walk On Down. I like what he did on that one. That was that came out. I didn't have any sour notes. That's important.
That seems to be what you like. If you know sour notes, beyond that, it was freaking great, man.
And I liked it. I liked the whole thing. It was a good record.
What about your solo on He's an Artist?
He's an artist.
I like that one.
Yeah, that was kind of, I was just winging it. I don't think I ever did it the same way every time.
But it was really good.
Yeah.
Alessandro, you have anything to say about Alessandro?
I like that one. I like I like the whole thing. I like the arrangement. I love the last verse where there's the drum, there's a little drum thing that Ernie does it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's just a nice little record.
So we recorded those four. And so when the album came out, it was those four songs plus 6 from the Capitol Masters, because A&M bought the Capitol Masters from Capitol. I think at the time it was for $20,000, which probably was a lot then. It wouldn't be now. But they bought the masters, including I'm Brown, Rock and Roll Queen, things that had been out on Capitol. Now A&M owned them. So it was like 6 songs from the Capitol stuff, and the 4 new ones was the album. So, I'm proud of the album, and it sounds great to this day. But the thing that bothers me is that the ones at Capitol with BB have a certain atmosphere and vibe, and the ones at A&M at Clover have a different sound and different vibe. These are more laid back and whatever, and these are more a brighter sound. And so, it's like 2 albums in one.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah. There's a little more production to the later stuff, maybe. Like
a different engineer, which a whole different sound.
Yeah.
And like I said, BB helped provide this laid back. We felt like we were in our living room.
Yeah.
We could be ourselves completely. There was no nervousness of any kind. And
you guys a pretty flat sound, kind of Memphis. Memphis was kind of like that. Their sound was pretty flat sounding.
And not a lot of reverb, no joke.
Yeah, not a lot of stuff on it.
Kind of Memphis style.
Yeah.
So that was quite an experience. So then the album came out, and we didn't really get a tour. There were several things going on. One thing was right at the time when it was released, we had that big gas crisis for gasoline, oil cartels and all that stuff. So that's when we had the big lines at the gas stations.
Yep.
We had to wait sometimes an hour to get gas or a half hour to get gas. And so as a result, airline flights were way more expensive, anything to do with gasoline and stuff. And so we didn't get to do a proper tour. Now, I don't know if we would have got one anyway. The company has to really be behind you to send you out, and I don't know how behind us they were. And we had lost we didn't have a manager, which really hurt us. But what I should mention here is that when we played the Roxy, right?
Right.
So once the album was done, my lawyer got me a meeting with this manager, Roy Silver, who had managed, I think he had been involved with Bob Dylan, and he managed Bill Cosby, a comedian. He owned a record label. Anyway, he was a big time manager. He had a big office on Sunset. I went to see him, took the album. He played a few seconds of a few songs. Said, "Oh, that sounds good enough." And he booked us into the Roxy just like that, So we were pretty excited. We rehearsed for the Roxy at SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals on Santa Monica Boulevard across the street from Gold Star. Mm-hmm. And what I remember about it was when we walked in the first day, playing pool right there was Neil Young and his band. They were recording Tonight's the Night, that album. And we were big Neil Young fans, so we were pretty excited about that. And we rehearsed in a room right near where that pool table was. And at one point, one of our guests opened the door, and Neil Young was listening to us. We caught him eavesdropping, which was a compliment,
Yeah.
And but anyway, we rehearsed very well there for the Roxy. Do you have any memories of the SIR thing?
Not really. Just no, not hardly any.
Things disappear with time.
Yeah, right.
But once again, one of the songs we were playing when Neil was listening was "Walk On Down."
Yeah.
And on his next album, I think he had a song called "Walk On." So I thought maybe that title stuck in his head, But anyway, so then we played the Roxy, and they paired us with the wrong group. Flash Cadillac and the Continental Kids, who were like a Sha Na Na type 50s revival band, which didn't fit our audience. How do you think that worked out?
Yeah, it was okay. Obviously there was a lot of their fans there, but we had, a lot of people that came to see us, but there was more of them than us.
Yeah. And I think I heard Joni Mitchell was there. I didn't see her. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that.
I heard that, and I think Herb Alpert was there, but I didn't see him. We were too busy. But we played Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So did we do 2 sets a night, or was it just 1 set?
Yeah, it was 2 shows a night. And it was quite an experience. And
it was a packed house every night.
Yeah, and we won over the crowd. We did win them over, especially with Rock and Roll Queen. But I just think we would have been better off opening for like a Jackson Browne or somebody that was more in our genre, But it still went well.
Yeah. I don't have any bad memories about it. It went fine.
So another thing that happened during that era, and I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure if we'd finished the album yet. Probably not. I think the singles were out. Yeah, the singles were out. And that's when Art Brambilla put together that concert at Cal State Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And it was billed as the first Chicano Rock concert. And here's the flyer.
La Feria, isn't it?
La Feria de la Raza.
Right.
But
there it is.
Brownback Productions presents the first Chicano Rock concert, 1972. What's the date on that? You see it?
September 17th.
Yeah.
Doesn't say the year, but
yeah. But anyway, the lineup. Can you see the bands here? Because it's backwards.
El Chicano, were they on?
El Chicano, Tierra, Elijah,
Mark Guerrero,
Carmen Moreno, and Mark Guerrero and the Mudd Brothers. See, that's before we were Tango.
Right.
And that was a great concert because what made it the first Chicano Rock concert was, sure, there'd been tons of Chicano Rock shows and dances and that kind of thing, but this was like a hippie, like a Woodstock kind of thing with people sitting on the lawn smoking pot. It had a vibe like a rock festival, and
there was a lot of people.
A lot of people. And El Chicano had already had their hit Viva Tirado, so they were a hit band. Tierra, their album had just come out. We were on Capitol Records. Carmen was on Epic Records. And Elijah was on United Artists Records. So we all had major record deals. So it was quite an incredible lineup. And we invited Anthony Beret to play with us, played Hammond organ. So do you have memories of that show?
Yeah, I remember there's a whole lot of people. It was just a lot of people, and all the bands were hot. Everybody played. And I think we did pretty good.
Yeah. Do you think you felt nervous, or did you feel any nervous?
I was probably nervous. Yeah, I always get nervous.
Well, that's a good thing when you're a little nervous.
Yeah, I guess.
But that was very historic, and I was in a book by Harvey Kubernik, the rock writer. It's called Turn Up the Radio, Rock, Pop, and Soul in Los Angeles or something. And he asked me to write a piece on that concert because it was historic, and he compared it to the Stax Watts thing that they had at the Coliseum and the R&B guys. And so I wrote this whole thing telling why it was important and historic, and it came out in his book. Let's see what else we got here. So then we got to do a few gigs as Tango after the album came out. And one of them was at UC San Diego at a place called The Back Door, which was kind of a troubadour type of club on campus. And we opened for Ronnie Blakely, who was an actress / folk singer. Do you have any memories of that?
Not a whole lot. Just
the only thing I remember is backstage.
Yeah, backstage.
We have it on film.
It's on film, yeah. So I remember there's some antics going on back there.
And we had just gotten our A&M t-shirts.
Yeah.
And we were wearing our A&M t-shirts, and Ernie was drinking beer, and we were kind of being silly backstage. We got that on tape. But we played there. We played A&M sent us to Verdugo Hills High School to play in front of a high school crowd, and they liked us. We won them over. And,
UCLA, I think.
and the UCLA thing was a disaster. And that's because opening for us was comedian Franklin Ajaye, Ajaye. And there was about an hour when the students sort of their lunch break, and the place was packed. And we were supposed to play the second half hour. That guy went on the whole hour. And, we couldn't get him off. What could we do? And by the time he got off, 90% of the people went back to class, and we played for like a real small crowd. I learned about the cutthroat show business.
Well, nobody remembers him now anyway, right?
No, he didn't last too long. He was in a couple of movies, and I don't know what happened to him. That wasn't very nice of him, really, to say the least.
He should have known better.
He should have known better. To give you an example of why I believe that A&M didn't quite know who we were or what we were, is I had a meeting with Jerry Moss, the M of A&M, and he asked me, so what do you think your music is like? What would you compare it to? What other artists? I said, oh, maybe a Buffalo Springfield. And he said, oh, I disagree. And I said, well, what do you think? He said, Tony Orlando.
What?
You never knew that story?
I didn't know.
Yeah, Tony Orlando. And knocked 3 times, all that stuff. No way, and the only thing I could think of is he was kind of brown and his name was Orlando Guerrero. I can't imagine any other comparison, but I think they didn't know exactly how to market us, Chicanos, but the music is rock and country rock, other than I'm Brown and the British Alessandro in Spanish. But we were just another Southern California country rock band, In fact, we're kind of while we were recording, the Eagles came out, so it was the same year. So we were like contemporaries of the Eagles, But we were recording though before their album was out. But yeah, that's where we fit in that genre. But I don't think A&M got that.
Yeah, I guess not. It has nothing to do with Southern California.
Right. And we lost the manager, so the guy Roy Silver kind of bolted. So when our album came out, we had no manager to fight for us at the label. So everything basically that could have gone wrong went wrong. But like I said, I'm still happy that we got to record that, get it out. Those records, the singles and the album exist, and they're there as evidence of what we did. So I'm really happy that we got to do it,
We did 2 more songs too, right?
Yeah, right. So then we had an opportunity to go in and do another single because they thought there was no single on the album, which, it was Rock and Roll Queen, it was Living Off the Land. There were things that could have been singles, but they thought there was no single, so go in and do another single. So we went into A&M Studios and did Holy Moses and Rock and Roll Circus. What do you remember about those sessions?
Holy Moses, I remember Henry Louis, was he the engineer?
He was the producer. He was supposed to be the producer.
He was kind of a pest, but he was he came up with that kind of chorus, the voices in the back.
Oh yeah. It sounded like a Gregorian chant.
Kind of like a chant, yeah. Which that kind of worked.
Yeah, I kind of like that as it turned out.
But I just think that's a great record.
It is a great record, and he was arrogant. He had an arrogance about him.
Yeah.
He just recorded Joni Mitchell and the LA Express, and he was on top of his game. And he looked at us as, these kids are bothering me, kind of thing. But by then we were really good at recording, and we really laid down some great tracks. You came up with another great signature lick on Holy Moses.
Right.
Perfect,
Good hook.
And I decided to the lead guitar on that. You played lead on everything we did, except I'm Brown. We both played lead, but on this one I did the lead, and I was pretty happy with it. What'd you think of it?
I liked it. Yeah, I liked the way it. See, did you go down?
Yeah, it was something like I went up when the other track was going
off
down.
The way the chord changes.
Yeah.
Like
but yeah, so that was a good record. And then the flip side, Rock and Roll Circus, boy, I think I made a mistake by choosing to record that because it was really an anti-music business song, you know, saying a rock and roll circus. And there was a verse in it where I said, and I'm sure you'll be amused at seeing people being used. It's a wonderful catastrophe, you know. I think it says it's the greatest show on earth. You get your money's worth. It's a wonder for your eyes to see. And I'm sure you'll be amused watching people being used. It's a wonderful catastrophe. See the rock and roll circus, come one, come all. See the rock and roll circus and have yourself a ball. So when they probably heard that, they go, seeing people being used, they weren't too thrilled. So it never was released as a complete single. They released it as a promotional copy to radio stations with Holy Moses on both sides, one side stereo, one side mono. So Rock and Roll Circus never came out. But that one was cool too. And I got to sing background on that one.
Yeah, that was cool. That's a good record. It was catchy, even with the anti-music business there.
wasn't too smart of me to do that, but I felt that way. By then I was kind of pissed off, no promotion and never getting promotion from any label, really.
Same old story.
Yeah, same old story. It's kind of frustrating. But we really never had a real serious manager either, or a serious booking agent or anything like that. We didn't know a lot. We were just young and just happy to record.
Yeah.
So after that, I just thought, you know what, forget this, man. I'm kind of burned out, and I went back to school, majored in Chicano studies, and that led me down a whole other road. I kept playing music, but I just needed away from the music business, and at some point after the breakup, you started playing with Cannibal from Cannibal and the Headhunters, and talk about that.
Frankie Garcia, aka Cannibal. He was still around and his thing, doing clubs, I guess, at that time. And somehow, I don't know, I think Richard got connected with him first, I think.
Rosas,
yeah. And they wanted another guitar player, I guess, because Brian Reyes was already playing with them. And I guess they wanted two guitarists. So Richard said, hey, I know this guy. So I started playing with them. It was Frankie and George Ochoa and Eddie Serrano were the three singers. And we had a drummer and keyboard player. I don't know if
Jimmy Seville.
I don't know if he was playing with him right at the beginning. He might have been. I don't quite remember. But anyway, that was the original group. And then Ronnie left for some reason. And Tony Duran came in and played for the remainder of my tenure, anyway. And that was great because he was great. He was a great musician, great guitar player. We learned a lot of stuff from him, and it was a great band. It was a powerful band. And then Ernie, the original drummer, had to leave, and so it was like, hey, we know this guy Ernie. Could probably fit right in. So we got Ernie to play for a few months. And, I don't know how long it lasted, but it was a while. And so when Ernie got in, it was great. It was a great band. And we played a lot at this place called the Mardi Gras downtown. And big crowds. And, when there's big crowds, it's much easier.
I went down there at least once or twice.
That was fun. It was fun. It's kind of in the pre-disco, or disco was kind of happening. So
it was about 76-ish, something like that.
Yeah, 76, yeah.
So then in '83, Tango had a reunion. By this time, Rick Rosas, our bass player, was living in Laurel Canyon again. Mm-hmm. And he had a recording studio, and he had it in this place. So what was it called? I wrote it down here somewhere. It was like a World War II bunker that was built in Laurel Canyon, and it had all these floors, and it went down underground many stories, and it had all these different rooms, and it had these studios. They used to do wartime films, propaganda films, or just films, anyway, somehow Richard got to have his studio in that building. It's called the Lookout Mountain, I think, something. You can look it up online. and we recorded 2 songs, the original Tango guys, 2 more of my songs. It was a Song and Dance Man and Hollywood, another anti-Hollywood song. And it was fun. And we locked right in. We played really well. I remember that.
I do. Yeah, it was interesting because Hollywood definitely sounded like we were older. You know, just
The
something about
maturity.
yeah, more mature. Yeah, different kind of song too. You know, it wasn't like what we'd done before. Maybe that was part of it, but it just had a different, you know, more mature. And, yeah.
In Song and Dance Man, you wrote the chorus. I had written this song and I really liked it. And it's actually a tribute to Bob Dylan
Mhm.
because he once, as a joke, when they asked him in a press conference, what would you call yourself? You know, what do you think of yourself as an artist? Oh, I consider myself a song and dance man. And everybody cracked up. And so I wrote a song called Song and Dance Man, tribute to Dylan. And I couldn't come up with a chorus. And so I said, hey, try. And you came up with a beautiful thing. It modulated into this thing. Song and Dance Man. Great. So we stuck that in there. And that was a good co-writing song for us. But and again, she did some great signature licks in there.
Yeah, that's funny because I probably told you a while back. I don't remember recording that song.
You don't remember even recording it.
I remember Hollywood, but you know, I don't remember that one. In fact, I heard it one time and I thought they did that without me. When was that?
How dare they do that without me?
They didn't tell me.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. You know, Ernie and I, when we talk, it's like I completely forget things that he remembers and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because our brains can only retain so much, especially after 50 years, for God's sakes.
You think I'd remember something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. And then on keyboard playing with us was Dan Fogelberg's keyboard player, and I forgot his name. Do you remember his name?
No.
But I guess Richard got him because he knew Dan Fogelberg by this time. And
Played on both those songs or just one?
yeah, he played on both of them. And the engineer was this guy named Walsh, Dave Walsh, something Walsh, and he's happens to be the guy that was the bouncer at the Troubadour that physically threw John Lennon out of there when John was drunk. When John was heckling the Smothers Brothers.
Claim the fame, huh?
He's the one that threw him out. And you can, when you see photographs of John being thrown out, it's the guy. And I recognize him. And I said, hey, what did he say to you when you were throwing him out? So he just said, don't hurt me. Wise words to use. So anyway, that was cool. So we have those tracks. They're really nice.
Yeah. And again, even Song and Dance Man, it sounds like a progression. You know, we were in a different place by then.
Yeah. It's a little more sophisticated. So then we started doing reunion shows, Mark and the Escorts reunions, and one tango reunion, one official one. And our keyboard player, nobody knows what happened to him. So you came in and played keyboard, the old Farfisa again.
Playing the keyboard, yeah.
Yeah, on some of those shows. And the first one we did was in Van Nuys. And the Ambertones were on it with us. The Ambertones got together again, East LA's Ambertones. And all the other groups were like punk groups. There was a female group called the Tough Titties. There were all these weird, and the crowd was young, white people, young punks, and orange hair and mohawks, whatever. But we won them over. They really did this, Yeah. And Rick Rosas showed up to play with us. He had already been playing with Neil Young for a while, and he showed up and played. And we had 2 bass players. We had your brother Leo, because he had done the rehearsals with us. So we said, "Oh, let them both play." So that was cool. And then we did the Tiki Oasis in San Diego. Remember that one?
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
As Mark and the Escorts. And there's a video up there. If you go to YouTube, Mark and the Escorts Tiki Oasis, and we're doing Get Your Baby. It's a pretty good performance of that song. And then we did Burbank. We did Echo Park, the Echo, and there was seemed like 1,000 people there. That was great. That was we kicked ass because we did a bunch of the East LA songs. We did Farmer John by the Premiers, La 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 by the Blendells. I Want to Do the Jerk by Ronnie and the Casuals, Land of a Thousand Dances by Cannibal and the Headhunters, and we did our records, Get Your Baby and Dance With Me. And the crowd went wild, man. It was a fantastic thing. Unfortunately, we don't have that one on video. And then we did the Paramount Ballroom. A lot of the East LA bands were there because it was to raise money for the bass player of the Premiers had passed away, and the wife of the lead guitar player of the Premiers had passed away, and they were raising money for their services. And everybody showed up, man. A lot of the East LA bands performed, or they showed up in the audience. It was quite a reunion of the old East Side sound. And then we had one tango reunion at East LA College, and it was for I think it was for the reissue of the book Land of a Thousand Dances by David Reyes and Tom Waldman. And Lisa Flores played, and Quetzal. And that was our chance to do our tango songs. Unfortunately, Richard couldn't make it because he was on tour with Neil Young. So your brother Leo played bass with us. Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah, it went over pretty good. I remember that on I'm Brown, that guy was dancing.
Oh, yeah. That's on video too. If you want to go to
I
YouTube.
just watched that recently. I show somebody.
Yeah, this one guy was just going crazy in front of us, dancing around. Yeah, that's all on YouTube as well.
Plus, we did a couple other ones. We did before that even when on our 25th anniversary, we all got together and played at Ernie's house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then we did your son's wedding.
My son James got married. Yeah, we played
2004. I have right here. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then it wasn't just us, but when I turned 60, we had a party here.
Oh, that was great.
Showed up, but there were some other people playing that time too.
Yeah, Tom Bray showed up on trumpet, and I think a drummer from the Blazers, and Alex Del Zoppo, from Sweetwater, who played at Woodstock. He did a couple of Mark and the Escorts. He did the tango reunion with us. He played keyboard, and he did a couple of Mark and the Escorts things too.
Yeah, Tom Bray, he's my cousin-in-law.
Yeah, he was with Elijah and played with Neil Young. And then lastly, unless you can think of something else, was the Grammy Museum.
Oh yeah, last year.
Yeah, last year, April 13th or something like that. There was an exhibit called Songs of Conscience, Sounds of Freedom at the Grammy Museum. It's the second time they'd run that exhibit. The first time was in 2009 or something. And I'm Brown, our record, wound up in the exhibit, Songs of Conscience, Sounds of Freedom, along with records by Bob Dylan and Jackson Browne and various Woody Guthrie and whatever. And it was an honor to have the song recognized. And so there was a panel discussion / performance at the theater there at the Grammys. And I got to help organize it, because the curator, talked to me about it. And we got Little Willie G to come and do a couple of his songs that were sort of movement songs. And Jerry Gonzalez, the female singer, great singer, came and did a couple of songs. And we got to do I'm Brown. I invited you to come and play with me acoustically. And it was me, you, and Rick Reyes on upright bass. And we did I'm Brown. And that was a really important moment for me. That whole night was really, really so important because we got to first, in the panel discussion, talk about the things that Chicano artists go through in the music business in terms of racism, in terms of having to change your name. Jerry Gonzalez mentioned that when she was with a major label, they said, you don't sound black enough and you don't sound white enough, And Capitol wanted me to change my last name, all this stuff that we go through. And but it was all about the Chicano movement and Chicanos in the music business. And then the show was great. Willie did his 2 songs. We came out and did I'm Brown. Then I backed up Jerry Gonzalez on a song I wrote that she recorded called Mijita. And then she got backed up by the trio Los Dados on a song Art Brambilla wrote. Art Brambilla was also on the panel. And a song called Mañana Es Now. And then I got to sing one of my dad's songs with the Trio Los Lados, Corrido del Chicano, El Chicano. And then we did a La Bamba finale, so everybody was on stage doing that, and it was a great night. What are your memories of doing On Brown? It was that moment.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it was. I thought it came out really, really good, considering it was just the two of us.
And the bass player at least helped out.
The bass player, that did help, yeah.
But it was, I remember you came out to my house and we did a rehearsal a few days before. So we had an idea how we're going to make this song work with just two guitars. But we did. You did some great stuff, and it went over really, really well. And to be able to have that song recognized and to do the song there at the Grammy Museum after all these years, 50 years later, was quite a thrill and a great moment. And then the La Bamba finale was fun. Everybody was up on stage. That's on YouTube if you look that up.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that was fun. It was a good night.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you think we missed? Oh yeah, the alley.
Oh, the alley, yeah.
Sometime around 2012, the four of us, the original Tango guys, decided to rent a rehearsal hall, and it was a place called the Alley out in the San Fernando Valley. And we rented it, and the four of us got together, you, Ernie, me, and Richard. And we just did all my songs. We did everything, the Capitol singles, the A&M album. We even did Lila Love Me Tonight, which I had originally done with Tommy Coe, then did with Lou Adler. But we did all the songs, and we had two cameras. I think Ernie brought one, I brought one. So we have it on video. I haven't put it on Facebook yet, but I mean YouTube yet, but I should, and I will. And it went great. And the thing that amazed me is I didn't know till later that Richard didn't even rehearse the stuff. We didn't rehearse. He didn't go over. He didn't do any homework. He just showed up. And you didn't do much homework. You were ill, for one thing. You had a little excuse there.
Yeah, it's not an excuse, but
He didn't prepare, but I guess you figured you knew him.
Well, yeah, I've heard the songs, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, but I'm amazed, given that you guys didn't really prepare. I don't even know if I prepared, frankly. All I knew is I had the lyrics in front of me. But we just ran all the songs, and I think there was only two that we had to do twice because we screwed up, and a couple that Richard had to be reminded of some of the changes. But we pretty much did them in one take, and had a ball, man. And then we all went to eat afterwards. So you were a little sick, but how did you feel during the thing? Were you able to?
Yeah, I felt it when I was playing. I felt fine, but it was just in between. It felt kind of shitty. So, yeah.
But it amazed me that Richard remembered everything. Because again, we did them so much back in the day, and plus recording them, and how many times we've heard them over the years. But a really nice thing, I think the nicest thing Richard ever did, where I'm concerned, or said, was the day after, or that night, maybe that night, he left a message. I think he had a couple of drinks, and he left a message on my answering machine, on my voicemail. And it said, "Hey, Mark, this is your bass player." And I said, that's really cool, because here's a guy that played with Neil Young for 10 years, toured the world, played with Joe Wallace for 8 years, whatever, and he goes, "This is your bass player." That was pretty cool. That was a nice thing to say. And I think he felt that way that day because, he came, he still knew the songs. We played them all great. And he laid that on me. So I thought that was pretty cool. You probably didn't know that, right?
I didn't know that, no.
Probably the alcohol helped. If you didn't have a drink or two, you might not have said it, but anyway, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So anything else you'd like to say? I mean, we covered a lot of ground, man. Anything else you think we missed? Or
Well, we probably did, but yeah, I can't think of anything right now.
But I would like to say this, and I'd like to say this publicly, because I've told you 2 or 3 times over the years, but literally everything you played on every of my songs, every one of my songs, every lick, every solo, every signature lick was perfect to me. And it enhanced every single song. I just want to thank you publicly.
Well, thank you for that. So yeah, I Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. There's nobody else I would have used. Nobody else could have done it better. I'm telling you. So, and hopefully, I think we'll be able to play now that we're semi-retired. Hopefully we'll be able to get some more opportunity to play together. And maybe
I'm still around. I'm still available.
and still playing. He's do gigs once in a while instead. So yeah, we will play again soon. And I look forward to that.
Yeah, if anybody's out there, I'm available. If for shits and giggles, let me know.
There you go. Cool, man. Well, I know nothing else you want to say.
No, just thanks. This was interesting, fun. Been kind of looking. I've known about it for a couple weeks now, so I've been looking forward to it. And
Cool.
hope it came out okay.
Yeah, it came out great, man. Thanks for doing it, man. And I'll let you know when it's up.
And see you soon, right?
Yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do that thing with Greg Esparza, which is worth mentioning. Greg Esparza sang with the Midnighters for about 20 years or maybe 15 years, probably from the early 2000s. He's no longer working with them now, but he's going for his master's degree and he's doing a project. And it's going to be about tango. He loves the album. He's had it for, I think I gave him a copy of it in the, 2008 or something. And he loved it right away. He loved I'm Brown. And he was at that Grammy performance we talked about. And he loves the stuff. And so he's going to do his project on us. And he's calling it something like Tango, the greatest album you never heard. And so he's going to, you and I are going to go with him in a couple of weeks, meet him in Echo Park and go over, try to find the house we used to rehearse in and, the various sites. He's going to interview you and me. And he's even talking about going up to Eureka to talk to Ernie.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool that, he's a younger guy. He's probably in his 50s, but, a lot of younger people, Piero, my partner in the Great Day in East LA project, loves I'm Brown. It's one of his favorite records. And young people, when they hear it, they still dig that record. And, it still hasn't seen its last days. I think it's going to continue to.
Well, it still doesn't sound dated.
Not at all.
Sounds dated at all. Yeah.
So we did something good, man. And the evidence is there.
Yeah.
So, okay, man. Well, thank you, man. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, actually a few days, I think, isn't it?
Is it a few days? When is it?
Next Friday.
The first Friday of March, right? Third?
Right.
Yeah, it's about a week.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you then.
I'll see you, man. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Ciao.